We're all looking for that perfect hair, right? We buy the masks, the fancy shampoos, the stuff that promises to be clean and natural. But what if those very products are letting something harmful slip through the cracks? Today, we're digging into the dirty truth about hair detox. We are going to peel back the label and really look at the science of what we put on our hair and our scalp. And I think you might be pretty surprised by what we find when we ask, what are we really absorbing? Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the very foundation of our hair, the scalp. It's easy to just think of it as skin, but it's so much more complex. It's actually a pretty porous part of our body, which makes it a gateway for all sorts of things, the good and, well, potentially the bad. This quote from Scalp Insights really just nails it. Your scalp has this dual role. On one hand, it's there to protect you. It's a barrier. But on the other, it's a direct pathway for things to get in. And that idea, that's going to be crucial for everything we talk about next. So try to picture your hair follicles and oil glands not as a solid wall, but as thousands and thousands of tiny little tunnels. This unique setup means that substances have a much more direct route into our system compared to, say, the skin on your arm. Right, so if our scalp is this gateway, what exactly might be knocking at the door? Well, this brings us to a really controversial group of chemicals that have been all over the news lately, PFAS. And that nickname, forever chemicals, it's no joke. These things are man-made, and they have these incredibly strong chemical bonds. Now, that's great if you want to make a nonstick pan or a waterproof jacket, but the downside is they just don't break down, not in the environment and not in our bodies. And they are, and I mean this literally, almost everywhere. From the pan you use to cook breakfast to the carpet in your living room, and yep, even in some shampoos and cosmetics. Exposure can come from so many different places, which makes them super hard to avoid. The scale of this whole problem is just staggering. We're not talking small numbers here. The potential global economic cost, you're looking at things like health treatments, environmental cleanup, it's estimated to be in the trillions of dollars every single year. And get this isn't some new problem we just stumbled upon. The story of PFS starts way back in the 30s with stuff like Teflon. But internal documents have shown that some companies knew about serious toxicity concerns all the way back in the 1970s. That's decades before any major international regulations even got started. So, with all this growing anxiety around chemicals, which is totally understandable, it's no surprise that the market has cooked up a solution. Enter what looks like the hero of our story, the natural detox. It's this promising fix for everyone who's just trying to find a cleaner routine. And one of the biggest stars in this whole detox world is something called bentonite clay. It comes from volcanic ash, and it's sold as this amazing, all-in-one product that can supposedly pull all the bad stuff out of your hair while adding moisture in. And you can see why it's so popular, right? It feels so empowering to just mix up your own natural hair mask in your kitchen. The recipe is simple, the ingredients are easy to find, and it gives you this feeling of control over what you're putting on your body. But does the science actually back up all this hype? Let's zoom in and really look at the evidence, because this is where the story takes a pretty sharp turn. So here's the kicker. Despite its massive popularity and all those glowing reviews you see online, when you go looking for solid scientific studies on what it does for human hair, there's almost nothing there. The evidence is surprisingly thin. In fact, the most common piece of evidence people point to isn't even about human hair. It's about how it affects sheep's wool. And, making a jump from a sheep's fleece to detoxing your scalp, that's a pretty big leap to take. This is where the disconnect gets crystal clear. Just look at the claims versus reality. The claim is it removes toxins from your hair. It's proven industrial use, binding deadly toxins in animal feed. The claim is it draws out oil. In reality, it's used to absorb massive industrial oil spills. It adds moisture. It's literally putting construction mortar to help it hold water. So yeah, while bentonite clay is being sold to us as this gentle, natural beauty product, its real identity is as a super powerful industrial absorbent. The very things that make it amazing for those heavy-duty jobs are what's being marketed for your hair. Knowing all of this, how in the world are we supposed to walk down the beauty aisle without just getting completely overwhelmed? Well, it really just comes down to being a more critical and informed consumer. First off, it's so important to recognize that fear sells products. This very real concern people have about chemicals has created this massive market for all kinds of detox solutions. Even these at-home test kits that claim they can show you all the toxins being pulled right out of your hair. The key is to empower yourself. You have to question buzzwords like detox. Always read the full ingredient list, not just the pretty claims on the front of the bottle. Do a little patch test before you slather something new all over. And maybe most importantly, just remember that the word natural is not the same thing as safe or effective. So ultimately, this leaves us with a much bigger question. When we're learning more and more about these forever chemicals on one side, and then seeing the shaky evidence for some natural solutions on the other, we kind of have to challenge our own definitions. What are we really looking for when we say we want clean products? And how can we make choices that are based on evidence instead of just hype or fear?